Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. We are Pavel and Sandro, like Andres said. And we are talking today about Liferay web experience for developers. What does it mean? Okay, maybe you have heard about the modern site building concept. If you could go to some of the discussions on Mondays and conference, or maybe if you could attend the talk given by Pablo and Marta yesterday. The content of the workshop, you will be familiar with it, but if not, don't worry, because we are explaining everything. So let's start. Another thing, all the content of the workshop will be based on football. I don't know if there are so many football fans here, but we will be talking about Leo Messi, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and that stuff. So I hope you like it. Here is the index with the points we will be talking about. We will be switching between the slides and code examples and demos. And here you have some links. First, the link to these slides. I recommend that you have them open, because we have put some links to code that we will be using. So in case you just want to look at it or just copy and paste. You have also here the link to the repository with all the code that we will be using. And another link with some code snippets that Pavel will use in the second part of the workshop. Here are the things you need to have prepared for the workshop. I don't know if anyone needs any help to prepare something, or we have.
Don't worry, don't worry, because it seems that mine is not working.
No.
1, 2. One, two. Oh, thank you. So don't worry if you don't have any tools, like if you don't even have Java installed. We have pen drives, so please raise your hand if you have something, like if you have no Liferay J2 installed, if you don't have Gradle Java or whatever. We have pen drives, so you could use them to quickly just copy and paste, and that's it. So please raise your hands if you need something. Okay, cool. And also, I would like to mention that don't worry if we have no time to cover all the topics, because we have a lot of materials prepared, and this Liferay Labs repository for this DevCon will always be there, and it's pretty well explained. Like, you can always check it out, like clone and ask us any questions. So ping us here in the venue or afterwards. So, okay, let's start, and let's start from the very beginning. We just want to explain what it's all about and why we are doing all that new stuff, and what is content page and what is fragment, etc. Because as far as I understand, many people think that we are going to have echo. Many people think, I don't know why, that we are going to replace existing portlets, the fragments or whatever, but it's not what's going to happen. We introduced fragments and content pages just to simplify the life of the end users of Liferay, end users who have like almost no technical knowledge, who just are in charge of creating portals, pages, and like some materials. So really wanted to simplify the life of those guys, because most of them are your users, our users, and this is our final goal, right? To make a user happy. And now I'm going to show you live how all these basic concepts work, like what is a fragment and how content pages are being constructed from fragments. I hope you can see clearly the screen. It's not the best lights here, but let's try to do our best. So in Liferay page administration application, which is inside of site builder pages menu item, you can see like the new Miller columns. It's not like new. It wasn't introduced in this version of Liferay. And I guess those of you who are familiar with Liferay Community Edition since 7.1, you know this already. So you can create a content page. So a widget page is one we had since the very beginning of Liferay, like built with portlets and so on. And content page, we typically build it for a new fragment stuff. So let's create a new test page. And as you can see, it's more or less the same, but the main difference here is that you can not only drag and drop widgets to the page, but you have different sections available, like predefined sections out of the box. You have different layouts, is what we were talking about on conference a lot. So if you remember in 7.1, in the first introduction of the fragments and content pages, we had no layouts, and it was like a huge complaint from the community, from the users, that it's a little bit difficult to create beautiful pages without having a layout structure. So now we can drag and drop a layout. We can even change like the size of every layout. And we can easily drag and drop like different components. We have a lot of out-of-the-box components, like cards and buttons and headings and many other stuff. And you can also edit some part of the page, like inline with a layout editor. Like that. That's simple. So as you can see, we try to simplify the Liferay for the end users, which I already told was our goal. And as content pages are made of fragments, let's check out what the fragments are and how to build a fragment. We have different ways of building a fragment, and one of them is just you can use our Fragments editor application inside of the portal. It's not the only way, but this is the way we have right now in the portal. So fragments are separated in collections, so you can create a collection of buttons, for example. And you can create a new button, co-devcon button, inside of that collection. And the fragment consists of HTML code, CSS, and some JavaScript. I think that for those of you who are familiar with online coding tools like CodePen, etc., it looks pretty familiar. So we can just create a button. Oh. Could you please create a button in your Spanish layout? What? Could you please create a button in your Spanish layout? Yeah, just a button, just to show how it works. And we also have a preview window which renders the fragment you are creating. So as you can see, you can use like the CSS built in your theme, or you can define any other styles using a CSS window for this particular fragment. And now I think that Sandro is going to show you another way of creating fragments. And this is what some people ask me about on conference. Well, what about the people who have no idea about Liferay and how to develop with Liferay, but they are great front-end developers and they would like to create their own fragments for the Liferay developers, users, etc. So now Sandro is going to show how to use our tool.
Yep. So we are doing a demo. We are going to create a page. I'll try to go slowly so everything is understood well, but if you want to stop me, ask whatever, just stop me when you want. First of all, here is the links to the fragments that we are going to create, just in case you want to look at it or just copy and paste if you want. So, okay. In this case, I am starting from the end. I'm going to show first the page we want to build, and then we are going to replicate it step by step from scratch. So we are going to create this page. As you can see, we have some cards with basic information about Messi and Hazard, and then we have another fragment with some stats and information about them. So to create this page from scratch, the first thing we are going to do is create our web content for stored information about our players. In case you are not familiar with web content, they are just pieces of data and information stored in fields that you can then use in your page. So first of all, we are creating our structure for the web content, and we are calling it player, for example. We can drag and drop here the fields, and then you can change here the label. For example, this will be the name of the player. Another one for the age. Now another one of the image for picture of the player. Another one for the position they play. Oh, oops. I'm putting here. What else? The team name. Another image for the team logo.
Hey guys, just in case, if you have any difficulty following the steps, just raise your hands and we're going to help you, okay?
Yeah, of course. And, and another one for the bio of the player. So, we have our structure prepared, so now we can create our web contents using it. So we just go to web content, we click on new, and here we can select our recently created structure player. So we are starting, for example, with Messi, and we are just filling the fields. So name, full name, Messi, age 32, and the picture, I think we have it here.
It's not necessary to use the exact picture of Messi, just in case.
Yeah, that's true. For the view, I have a text prepared here, ready to be copied. So, the position is a striker. I hope you can see it well. I'm going to zoom a little bit. For the team logo, I have it here also. and the team name, Barcelona. I think we have it. Yeah. So it's ready, and then the other one for the other player. Okay. 28. The picture, we have it here also. For the view, I have the text here. And we are done with it. The position. The team logo, Real Madrid in this case. And the team name. So, we have our content ready with all the information about our players. So now we are going to create the page itself. So we can go, as Pavel said before, to Site Builder, Pages, and here we are creating our page, Players, for example. Okay, so now, I lost the, okay. As we want the card to be on the left, we are going to use, we have here our layouts. So we are using this one. Actually, we can resize here the columns, but we want just this size. So we are adding 2 rows. Okay. And now we need to create our fragments. We need this card. So the next thing we are going to do is create the fragment. So the first one, we are going to create it here in the portal, and for the next ones, we will see another way we have to create fragments. But for now, we are going to page fragments. We are creating a new collection for the demo called Players. And we are going to create the fragment for the card, player card. Okay, I have the code here for the card. I really used markup from Clay, that is the implementation of Lexicon, that is our design system. You can check it here. If you go in here to Clay, and in cards we have some examples of cards. I just use this markup to create the fragment, so no magic. And we are copying the code to our editor. And then I put some styles just to change some colors and sizes. Nothing special. So okay, and here in the preview, you can see we have our card. The first thing I want to explain here is that you can see here this tag, LFR editable. I don't know if you can see it very well, but wait. This tag. So we are going to explain a little bit what is this. I have here a slide. So editable fields are elements, as you can read here, that can be added by developers when coding, when creating a fragment, and then can be inline edited by users in the page. Here is an example. For example, when you are creating the fragment in the editor, in Portal, if you type LFR editable, it auto-completes and it shows you the options, because we have 5 types: image, HTML, text, rich text, and link. And then if you use that fragment in the page, as you can see here, the pieces that are highlighted are the editables. And in the page, you can just change the value of the text or map it to a web content field. That is what we want to do this time. This is the mapping concept that I was talking about. As you can see here, you can select, in this case, the second field and map it to, in this case, an example content and an example field. And the editable shows that value. So we are going to do just that. So we have our fragment ready. We can publish it. And then we come back to our page. We edit it. And here we have our collection, players, and our fragment. So we are dragging one to here and another one to the other column. So now, okay, we have our cards, but we want them to display the info about our players. Okay, so if we click the fragment, you can see that the editables that we added are highlighted, so we can just, for example, edit the text, as you can see here, or we can map them to web content fields. If you remember, we created before the web contents for our players, so now we are using them to display the values in our editable. So starting with the image, we go here to the map button, and we just have to select our messy web content, and here we have a select with the fields. As you can see, the select only shows the fields of that can be mapped to our editable. As this is an editable of type image, it only shows the content field types, the content fields of type image. In our case, we want here picture. So, okay, it displays the picture of our player, and then we are doing the same with the rest of the fields to display the corresponding fields. We have now the web content here as we recently used it. We select here the position, now the name of the player, here we are putting the team logo, and the team name.
So as you can see here, it's even not necessary now to create a DDM template to render your structured content. The only thing you have to do is to drag and drop the fragments you would like to map and map those fragments parts to the content fields you would like to display. And that's it. No more FreeMarker, velocity, or whatever. Just drag and drop and map, and that's it.
Yeah. While Pavel was talking, I was just doing the same with the other card. So we are putting here the position, the player name, name, the team logo, the team name, and we are leaving the more info button for now. I'll explain later. So now if we publish our page and we view it, now you can see that we have our card already shown, but our more info buttons do anything. So in the example that we have here, if you click the more info button, it takes us to a player details page. So that's the next thing we are going to do. So okay. Yeah.
Is there an easier way to do
Huh. Where is he? Where is the microphone? Let's see. Sorry.
Check. My question would be if it's possible to prepare the fragment already having the mapped fields. I mean, you have a purpose here. You created a fragment showing information about a player coming from a CMS content. I mean, if you want to have like 10 players on one page, you will have to select each and every single field manually. Is there any way to make this automated, like through the HTML, so the fields are already mapped and you only have to select the content type and the CMS in this case?
We don't have this option yet, but if you feel that it would be useful for you, we can just write down your feedback and add it to our roadmap, because it sounds reasonable, right? Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You mean that you can select, for example, a fragment and a web content and not having to select field by field? Okay.
For Leo, it's for example, you put the fragment on the page.
Sorry. For Leo, for example, if you put the fragment on the page, as you did initially, and you selected, I think, the CMS content, and then you selected the article from Leo, that the fields are automated, like mapped automatically. And you do not have to do it for each and every single field.
Understand. Yeah, as Pavel said, it would be good to have it maybe for next versions.
Thank you.
Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is to create this page, the player details page. So we are doing it with display page. If you are not familiar with this concept, it's just a page to display a specific type of content of a specific structure. So we are creating it for our player structure. So if we create a display page, as you can see here, we are calling it player details, and you have to select here the structure you want to use. So in our case, our structure player, and then the editor is just the same that we used before for the content page. Okay, so we want to create a minute pages.
So basically, right now, Sandro is doing what you were asking, but in a slightly different way. So I think that for your situation, it can be an option. So
maybe. So we want to create this page. So first of all, we are adding the layout. For the image, we are using this with 3 columns, and we are adding a little bit of horizontal padding to make it a little bit smaller. And then we are adding another row for the paragraph. Now we need these fragments because we haven't created them yet. Our fragment for the image and for this paragraph. So to create these fragments, I'm going to explain another way we have to do it with the with the fragment generator. We are calling it right now Fragment Toolkit. And this is the repo. And this is basically a tool that allows us to create fragments locally in our favorite editor, and then we can import them in our portal instance or export them from the portal to our local project. So for this, you need to have installed Node. I don't know if everybody have it prepared. If not, please ask some of us.
Yeah, if anyone has problems, or I have problems with my microphone again. If anyone has problems with the installation of Liferay Fragments generator, just let us know, because it requires some Yeoman and Node, etc. So if you have any difficulties installing this, just let us know, raise your hand, and we're going to help you.
Yeah. I am assuming that all of you have Node prepared, so the first thing you have to do is install Yeoman and the generator itself that add these two commands. I'm not doing it because I already have them. I am waiting a little bit for you to do it if you want. And then so when you have it installed, the first thing we have to do is to create our project, our fragment project, and we can do it by typing the command yo liferay fragments. So I think it's too small. Wait, please.
So while you are installing the Liferay Fragments generator, I just want to mention that this tool doesn't depend on your Liferay portal instance. It's just made for you to make your life easier, to make the fragments development easier for the guys who have a lot of knowledge about front-end technologies, about JavaScript, HTML, CSS, but have no idea what Liferay is, etc. So you can just start creating your cool front-end components, having no idea about Liferay.
Yeah. So as I was saying, we have to create the project with your Liferay fragments. It asks for a name for the project. We are calling it, for example, workshop players. And you can add sample content like a sample fragment if you want, but in my case, I don't want it. So that's all. We have our project created. We are opening it with our editor. So workshop player. Okay. Okay, so here is our project. I hope you can see it well. So now it's empty. We don't have fragment in our project. So the first thing we are going to do is create one. In this case, if you remember, we want to create two fragments, one to our image with the rounded borders, and another one for the paragraph. Okay, so here we have some different commands for doing things here with the toolkit. To create a fragment, our command is just npm run add fragment, and we are putting here the name, player image. We are starting with the image. In this case, if is of type component. Yes, it asks for the collection. As we didn't create one, we can create it now. So new collection. We are calling, for example, imported players. Collection description is optional. Okay, so we just created a fragment here. Player image, it's empty. So now we are copying the code. I have the code in the other project here. The same with the card. Image. This is pretty simple. This is a markup for the fragment of the image. It's pretty simple. I did with the class rounded circle for the rounded borders. And then, as we did before with the card, we have the Liferay editable field of type image for us to be able later to change the image. And I think, I don't know if we used any style, but no, not for this one. So it's ready. And now what we have to do is to import the fragment we just created locally to our portal instance. So if we run npm run import, it will ask for some params to connect to our instance. As I am using the default data, I can just press enter. It asks for our company, our site. Okay, and as you can see here, the fragment was added successfully. So if we go now to our portal and go to fragments, we can see here our collection, imported fragments, imported players, and our fragment. I think it's of type section and not component. So maybe I made a mistake when creating it. So here, okay, the type is empty. Each fragment has a fragment.json file with the path and the files to the style files and the configuration file. And here you have a type field that indicates if it is a section or a component. So if we put component and we re-import, we are going to import it again. We delete this one and npm run import. Okay, so now you can see here the orange icon that it is a component and not a section. I don't know if we explained the difference between section fragment and component fragment, but we are doing it now. If you go to a page, for example, we are creating another one. We have two types of fragments: sections that is in this first panel, and components that are in the second one. So section components are this one that fits the whole page, and the components are the ones that we can throw inside columns, are the one that we are using in the workshop. So for example, if you see, these are the basic components that we give out of the box. And for example, the card, you can throw it in any column that you want or in the whole page, but it's not the same with sections. Sections are prepared only to be thrown in the whole page. You can't throw them inside columns. So that's because we are using components in this workshop and not sections. So coming back to our page. Okay, we have import our player image, and then we have to do the same with the paragraph. With this paragraph, we are to create a simple fragment just with a title and a body for the paragraph. So we go to our fragment project again, and we just create another fragment. We are calling it player paragraph, type component, and now we are going to select our already created imported player collection, and it created our player paragraph component. So for the markup of this one, I have also it here, the paragraph is here, and it's just a title and a body. It's just pretty simple. I'm going to copy it to my local project, and I think I didn't use any special style here, neither. No. So our fragment is ready to be imported. We run again the npm run import command. As we did before, we can use the default data, the default params. Our site, our page, okay, and it was imported successfully. So if we go there, we should see our player paragraph. So now we have the two fragments we needed to create our display page. So we can go back to it, and now here we have in the imported player collections our player image that we are going to place here. And now, as we did before in the content page, we are going to map this image to the player image. So we go to the map panel. In this case, we are mapping it to the structure and not to a specific content. So if we select here the picture, it's not showing any picture because we are mapping it to the structure field. And then for the paragraph, we are throwing here, for example, I think 4 paragraph. Okay, and now we are filling the titles. We don't need to map the title, so we can put here name, age, position, and here the bio. And what we have to do now is to map the paragraph themselves. So for the first one, we are selecting name. As you can see, it's now purple color. It indicates that it's already mapped. And the same with the rest of them. The age.
So what's up?
Wait a little bit. I think it needs some seconds. No? Where's the microphone?
I don't know. Oh, it works. Yeah. Oh my God. So what Sandro is doing now is he says that for any entity of type player, of structure player, which will have this display page template associated with this entity. We are going to map automatically like name paragraph to the name field of the structure, image element to the image field of the structure, etc. And later we are going to show you as well how to create mappers for your own entities, and you will see how easy it is. And I know that it can be a little bit difficult to understand, because even for us it was a little bit difficult to understand this concept, but in fact it's so amazing that, and you can do so many things with it. So please wait a little bit, and we're going to show you how to deal with it.
We have to go a little bit fast today.
Yeah, in my test, I try to use a basic component already prepared for it, an heading, an image, but I can not able to map this kind of components to a web content field.
You are not able to do it,
No,
right?
now I'm not able. But I remember in the GI1, is it possible, but I don't know. If you try to take a basic component, a heading or an image, it might be, but I don't know if it's correct or not, because you have built a fragment, okay.
Yeah. But you can do it also
yes,
with the
a
basic
simple
component.
image like this.
Yeah, if you select, you have to select first the fragment itself, then with the second click you select the image. Click. So maybe that's the trick.
Okay.
And now you can map.
This okay.
So
it's not clear. The second click.
Maybe it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, if you feel that it's a UX issue, just let us know. And
okay.
It's a good
but
feedback.
It's possible. Okay, it's possible.
It's a good feedback that is tricky. Okay, so if I didn't make any mistake, I think we have our template, our display page prepared to be used with our content. So if we publish it, we have to do some little thing, and it's going to our web contents first, messy, and we have to say it that we have to tell it that it has to be shown with the template, with the display page that we just created. So if you go here to display page, when you are editing the web content, in the sidebar you have this field, display page template, and you can say that it's going to use our recently created player details template. So down.
And just to make it clear, this display page selector component, it's not something, oh my god, it's not something you have to implement on your own. We have a standard Liferay taglib for it. So you just have your edit page for your entity, and you use our taglib to display display page template you would like to associate with your entity.
Yeah. So now we can republish it and do the same with the other content. So yeah.
So I have a question about search. If you combine these things all together, so we have a display page template, and using a web content and another fragment. If you search for that content, which page will be displayed in the result? Both pages, or just the one from the display page template?
I didn't
well,
understand
the thing
question.
is that we index content page as content. So if you have it mapped on your content page, you will be able to find it using Liferay standard search, because we index all the content you have on your content page, but we do not index display page template content because it's impossible. It will be different for every entity. we still index web content, so you can find the web content, and then you click on it. If it has associated display page template, it will take you to this display page template for this particular entity.
Okay, so you won't get the result for another mapped content page, which has this web content.
No, then you search for a particular content, and you have found like 5 web contents, right? Yeah, each one has a title, and if each one has associated display page template, you click on it, and it takes you exactly to the display page template for this content you search for. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we already assigned the display page to our contents. So if we publish, now we can go to our page again. Pages, players. Okay, and what we have to do now is to say the buttons that it should take us to the display page, to the player details page. So for the buttons, you have here a button, another button to link it. So you can put manually an URL, or you can map it to a content field. For example, for our messy content, we have here a field that it's display page URL. I don't know if you can see it, but display page URL, and it will take us to the player details page that we just said before. And the same with the button of the other card. We map it to a content field, to the display page URL, and everything should work. If we publish and we go to the page, we click the More Info button, and it takes us to our display page, but showing this time the values of the content. Okay, and the same with the other one.
Also, I just want to mention that it's not necessary to manually assign your display page template, like specific display page template, to each entity. You can just define the display page template, which will be a default for a particular type of entity. Like you can create a display page template, a default display page template for all the players you create. Then you just create players, and even in the asset publisher, you have a list of players. You click on any of them, and it will take you to the default display page template for this particular player.
Yeah. So now we have the first part of our page working, and we just only need to add the other fragment for the stats and the info. So for this thing, I'm going to explain a little bit one thing, that is this one, that fragments can have configuration. Configuration with which users can set different params on them then later when using them in the page. And this configuration can be specified by developers in a JSON file in the Fragments editor. We are going to see how it works. And this is an example for the heading basic component that we give out of the box. It has configuration to set the text color, the spacing, the text align, and some other things. Okay. So the JSON file that I mentioned that you need to fill to create this configuration, we have here an example. This is the JSON that stores the configuration just for this component, the heading. As you can see, it has a structure divided in field sets and then fields. We are going to explain it right now, but you can set here some different fields, for example, the heading level, that can be H1, H2, etc., the text align, the button spacing, and that things. And when you create this configuration file, then in the editor, the user will see that panel and can select the value the preferred value.
Well, I think that it's really important to explain why did we do that? Why did we introduce this configuration feature? And I will give you my own example, how did I face this problem. Like for the last year's DEF CON, I really wanted to use our Fragment stuff and our content page stuff to create my presentation. And I ended up that it was almost impossible to create a presentation using our own structure, our own content pages and fragments. Because like I had to create too many different fragments, like I had to create a blue heading, black heading, etc. And with this one, with this feature, you can just create a heading component and define that user can select a color using a configuration. User can select the text alignment. User can select the spacing, etc. So you have only one component instead of having many of them. And you can just enable user to easily configure your component to make it look exactly what you want it to be.
One question.
Yeah.
Is there some tool for generation such as JSON configuration, or I as a developer should manually create all this JSON?
Not for now.
Well, actually, in our Liferay portal repository, we have a JSON schema file with a description, and there are editors which are able to say, hey, this is your JSON schema, and you're creating a JSON with the JSON schema. And if you put anything like wrong, it corrects you. It has autocomplete. It depends actually on the editor, on the ID you use. But as far as I know, many of them support JSON schema. It's not a big deal. You just
here is the JSON schema.
Control space and autocomplete it.
Yeah. Here is the schema in case you want to check later. But as Pavel said, it validates in the moment that you create the file. Okay. So so we are doing this fragment using configuration for you to understand it. Okay, so we come back to page fragments. I am creating it here. Players component, and we are calling it player info. Okay, so first of all, as you can see, in the fragment editor, you have a tab here that's called configuration, and it comes with an empty JSON file that you can fill. And as we did before, we are going to copy the code from here. I have it here. I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to explain it. So it goes here. Okay, it seems complex, but it's simpler than that. For example, I have created two field sets. Field sets are the groups that you are going to see them in the configuration panel. You can divide fields in different groups. So each field set is just a group of fields. And then inside field sets, we have the label for the field sets and the fields. In this case, I put just a field. This is one field. I put just a field to define the level in each of the skills. As you can see here, we have technique, strength, dribbling, and speed. So I just put 4 fields of type select to define a value from 1 to 5 to each of the skills. And that's what you can see here. The name of the field, the label that you can see in the panel, the type that is of type select, and here in the valid values, yes, from 1 to 5.
Just a small detail to add. We know that many of you work with the multilingual communities, and the labels we use here, they are translatable using our standard resource bundle concept. So you can just put there your language keys instead of the exact label, and Liferay takes care about translating them using your resource bundle.
Yeah. As I was saying, I added 4 fields just to select the skills rating, and finally 3 more fields. I added one of type checkbox just to select whether the player is healthy or not, and 3 other fields of type input just to put this info, the games played, goals, and assist. And you can see them here. The checkbox is pretty simple. You just have to put a default value. In our case, I put false, and a label. And for the inputs, almost the same. The name, the label, a description, the type text, and you can put here a placeholder for the input. So with our configuration file ready, we just only need to add the HTML and the styles. I have it here. Remember that you have all the code in GitHub in case you want just to copy and paste or look at it. So we are copying the markup here and some styles that I added for, as I did before, just to change some sizes and colors. And here, an important thing. The values that the user select in the page for the configuration can be used in the markup of the fragment using FreeMarker. I think I have it here. As you can see, this is the markup for the heading component that I showed before, this one. And as you can see, I don't know if you are familiar with FreeMarker, but here, for example, in the class, the class is called text dash and the value that the user put in the configuration, so that the fragment can change its color depending on the value selected from the configuration panel. Okay, so in our case, I used here FreeMarker to put the class for the progress bar. As you can see here, I put a skill. I put a skill level dash and the value that the user selected for that skill, and then here I have classes just to change the color of the bar depending on the value. Okay, so that's how the developer can use the configuration values in the markup using FreeMarker.
Actually, one detail, that the configuration object is not only available in FreeMarker rendering on the backend side, but it's also available here. As you can see, we have a function wrap JavaScript for the fragment.
Yes.
And the configuration object, it's also available in the JavaScript. So you can write your fragment's JavaScript code using these configuration values for a particular fragment.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we are done. We can publish our fragment and see how it works in the page. So if we come back, yeah. Oh, okay.
No,
Where?
ok, ci sono. I don't know if I'm out of topic with this question, but I try. In the mapping, you can choose every structure fields. But I don't see, for instance, the article ID. But not only because I want to show the article ID, but maybe I want to use it in the JavaScript part to call some services about this article ID. Because I can choose the contents part, but not the metadata of the asset. Maybe it could be useful because I can choose the article ID, but the CSS could hide this field, maybe. But I can reuse it for the JavaScript part. I don't know.
Well, actually, the good part of mapping infrastructure, mapping concept is that it's completely up to you which fields you would like to expose to be able to map to. So you can say, and we are going to touch it a little bit later with a Java code, you can create a simple OSGI component saying that, okay, for the journal article, I would like to expose article ID, group ID, I don't want content, I don't want title, only particular fields, and that's it. And they are going to be available for your mapping if you would like to use them. So it's not a problem at all. It's under your control as a developer what to add, which fields to expose to public, and that's it.
Because this is useful to map some custom entity. This is the reason, or the goal of this kind of, because it's interesting.
Yeah, sure. That's why I'm saying it's completely up to you as a developer which fields your users, your business users are going to map.
Oh, it's powerful, yeah.
And that's it. It's completely up to you.
How do you configure that? I mean, what is the concept used for that?
Yeah, I will show later a Java code, how to implement it and how to support it for your custom entities, how to override it for the journal article, and etc.
Okay, great.
I have a question about the when you map the fields from web content, they are not editable.
They are, sorry?
The mapped fields from web content are not editable in the page fragment. Do you plan to change it?
Well, actually, we have a very nice feature implemented. I think I told on Monday on conference, that, or it was yesterday, I don't remember exactly, that it's an experimental feature. It's disabled by default, but you can enable it in the system settings. And you'll be able to create your content in runtime, actually, just selecting a couple of fields on your content page and clicking, okay, I would like to create a web content from these fields. And it will show you all available structures you have. You just choose one and you map, okay, this value to this field, this image to this field of my structure. Create content, and that's it. And it automatically creates a content for you and maps it to the values on a content page. So it's pretty cool, but it's still experimental feature. So in the system settings, I don't remember how exactly the section is called. If you want, ping me later and I'll show you. I think it's called like content pages, inline content creation, something like that. So find me later and I'll show you.
Yeah. Okay, so finally we can use our fragment here, player info. And as you can see here, you have this button, the cog, for the fragment configuration. And it displays all the fields that we put in the JSON. As you can see, here is the first field set, skills, with the select, and the second one, the info, with the other fields. And then you can change the value here, for example, 4, and for strength 5, and you can see how it immediately changed how the fragment is rendered. Okay. So, and the same for the rest of them. In yours, for example, you can see it it changed the icon and the color when I select that field, and the same for the inputs. For example, I can put 15 games, 9 goals, 8 assists, for example. And now the fragment is configured. Okay? Yeah.
Normally you would set this in the content, right? I mean, it's statically set on the display page right now, instead of down to the actual FreeMarker.
So you can use the fragments configuration in the display pages as well. So one thing is the configuration for a particular fragment, and another thing is how do you map, to which fields do you map your structure fields on the fragment fields. So it's two different things. The micros.
Sorry. I just wanted to say maybe this is close to the first question I had initially.
Yeah.
That when you select web content, which would be the web content for Leo Messi, for example, and it is being filled automatically with all the fields you have defined before. So,
yeah, that definitely can be a new feature. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's all. We can do the same with the other, and that's all I wanted to show. I hope you like it. I'm sorry that I had to go a little bit fast. So now I leave to Pavel the second part of the workshop. Okay, another question? Yeah.
It takes like 10 seconds.
Okay, I have 3 questions. Okay, first is quite general. Is it possible to place on these fragment pages some portlets? Because sometimes we still need to offer not only web content, but, for example, Liferay content and have a form, feedback form on the bottom. So we need fragments, and we need to place some portlet in some place.
Yeah,
sure. Could you please show it?
Widgets.
You have here a panel with the widgets on the portlets, and cool. you can also throw them inside a layout, for example.
So actually, in this case, what is the major difference between a widget page and this page? Why don't keep only this page, this kind of page?
You can. You definitely can. If you want to, it would be really great.
Yeah, because I don't see now if I can just do this layout and place widgets. I can make all portal only from these pages and not use widget pages because...
Yeah, definitely. If content pages fulfill your requirements, that's great, and even better because in content pages you can see the experience combo, for example, and you can create different experiences, and even for the non-instantiable portlets like blocks, you can say, okay, for the admins, I would like to show blocks only title list. And for the guest users, I would like to show cards.
Yeah, it's a segmentation for whole page. Yeah. But in this case, what's the reason to keep widget page? What advantages of widget page compared to fragment page?
You know, every time we deprecate some functionality.
Okay. Just to not shock people once again.
Yeah, we face a lot of complaints and just make people happy the way we want to be happy.
Yeah, it's exactly what Brian told yesterday about moving to OSGI and breaking Portlet SDK. Okay, second question. Let's speak about this configuration. For example, I can use configuration and I can use some in HTML, I can use some constructions to get this value from configuration. But if I am placing fragment on content template page, so is it possible to use values from web content, from structure in web content, in these constructions in HTML? So, for example, I have these values like 59, 8 in web content structure, and I like automatically get it into HTML, not through mapping, but automatically get into HTML like we did it in FreeMarker and so on from web content values.
With the item selector field, maybe?
Well, yeah, I got what you are asking for. Technically, it is possible. It's not publicly announced. If you want, I can show you how to do that, but it's not the recommended way to do that.
Okay. Why? Okay.
You get tight coupling between the fragment and the content.
Yeah. Okay.
The fragments are designed to be a loose coupling.
So if
I
the
can
question
understand,
is
but I'm speaking about display template page, and when we configure display template page, we actually in configuration of this page we say what this page is designed to display specific content. So we already do this coupling. We already preparing a page to display specific type of content, and in this case it will be, for example, just a sample. I like to add this widget, this fragment, on a template page related to player info. So I cannot map these values because it also affects CSS and so on. So I like to use something like you did with this configuration. But I cannot use configuration on that page because this page may display any player. So I need kind of...
yeah, I understand what you're talking about. And like the low-level question is, do we inject all the fields mapped into the process of rendering of display page template for a particular entity? Yes, we do. And they are available, and technically, and this is the beauty of Liferay, that you can actually do whatever you want to do.
But on your own risk.
Yeah, while you are understanding what you are doing.
Okay, okay. Last question about command line tools. So yeah, it's really cool. Now it's possible to prepare fragments in like an editor, keep these fragments in GitHub, and put actually what is quite important for me to put. I hope it's possible to put fragments as part of DevOps process. So question is, can I somehow automatically deploy fragments I have in source code into a specific environment as a part of my deployment process? Because you show this command line tool, but it has interactions. I should enter username, password, specifically password. I cannot put passwords in configuration. So is it possible like to build a zip file and put in deploy folder or something like this?
Sure, there are a couple of different ways to do what you want to do, and I'm going to show you right now how to do that. And yeah, fragments as a, like, you can create a fragment collection as a module and include it in your CI/CD process.
Okay.
Without any passwords in configuration.
Okay, great.
I would like to follow up on his first and second question. So about additional widgets on a page, on a content page, especially on a display page template. I would like to use the traditional widgets like related assets and tags and category stuff, etc., combined with the new way of doing display pages. Yeah. To me, it seems that while you said that the content of the currently displayed asset is, well, the context is available to the page, so you can do anything you like. On the other hand, it seems like that is not propagated to those other widgets.
It is. So you can, for example, on your display page template, you can create a display page template and put, I don't know,
related assets?
Comments portlet.
Related assets?
Maybe, yeah, as well. We tried it with comments, we tried it with, what else? Well, with some portlets. We tried it with some portlets, with ratings, with comments, and then you open a display page template with a particular entity, you will be available to comment on this particular entity. So.
Okay.
Just remember it on our question. I think when I played some time ago with Fragment page, I found, but probably I'm wrong, but when I created widget page and when I've created Fragment page, site theme wasn't applied to fragment page. So question is themes what we are using in widget page applied on fragment page, or we should use something like this sections for header, footer, and so on instead of themes?
Okay, right now I'm going to show you. So here on the content page editor, we have this look and feel icon. Just click it, and you can say, okay, I would like to use the same look and feel as all the public pages, or for this particular page, it can be a display page or a content page. I would like to use a different theme, or I would like to disable some common elements from this theme, etc. So, yeah, it's applied.
So answer is yes, applied.
Yeah, the answer is yes,
great.
and it's easy to change it.
And I noticed one behavior when you add fragment to a content page or a display page template, and then you modify a fragment somehow, the changes are not propagated, and so you need to remove and then add again.
No, you don't have to remove actually, and this can be done in different ways. The first way, and we discovered that it's not really clear way, so sorry for that, they're going to improve, is you go to page fragments, and here, like in our imported players, you have a kebab button and you have view usages icon. So here it says that right now this component is on 2 pages. So, and it has a latest version. And what I do is I can just edit some part, some stuff, add some stuff to this fragment. I publish the fragment, go to the usages, and it says that my usages are using a previous version, so I can just select them all and say, okay, I would like them all to use the latest version, and that's it, they are propagated. And for the development mode, we understand that it can be actually difficult to propagate manually all the time, so then you are in the development mode and you would like to see the changes immediately. In the system settings page fragments section, you can enable automatic propagation. So once you change it, it's going to propagate immediately, and it has a warning, like in the fragments editor, it has a warning saying, hey, you are in development mode, please be careful. Well, if no more questions for this part, we can start with the next one because we have a lot of material to cover. And we will have to switch our laptops for it. Hope it works better than the micros. Okay, we have. So this question was like, can we automatically create and deploy our fragments as a code? And as I told you before, yes, there are several ways of doing that. And one of the ways is to create a module which will contain like contributable fragments, contributable fragment collections as a code, as an OSGI components. And to make it a little bit easier for you, I would like to invite you to this code sharing link. It's bit.ly defcon-2019. And I'm going to copy snippets of code to make it more comfortable for you to follow in this code sharing session. Can you see it on your screen? Like I'm typing and okay, cool, great. So the idea is that we're going to create like a couple of new components as a code. And for this, I want to switch a branch. And all the code I'm going to show is available in our GitHub repository, Liferay Labs. So you can check it whenever you want. And we would like to create a module called Players Collection. And we are going to, with this module, we are going to contribute some different players. They are not as fancy as Sandro created, but I did my best with the design side. So first of all, I would like to propose you to download the common build files, because I understand that not all of you have Gradle wrapper, Liferay repo, clone, etc. So we're just going to use, it can be used by any developer from the outside who just started to work with Liferay. So please download the common build files. I'm going to post the link for them right now. Liferay Labs. I'm going to post a link to the code sharing session, and you just can create a folder for the whole session of the backend development for this workshop, and just unzip the build files, because they have some code. Just posted the link, so you can just download it, create a folder with all the projects for this workshop, and unzip those common build files there. Next, we would like to define the Liferay module we are going to build and deploy to our JA2 instance we have. And we create a BND file with a short description of this module. I'm going to pass it as well to the code share. I'm going to say that it's a bnd.bnd. So you create a bnd.bnd file, like for any OSGI module we have in Liferay. If you have never created one, so this is a good time to learn, good opportunity to learn. So we create a BND descriptor of the module, which contains basically like a name of the bundle, a symbolic name like a system name that the OSGI container is going to use, the version, which will be a first version, our web context path to use the resources, and so on. So just create the bnd.bnd. And we also have to create a build file. We use Gradle to build it. So we have to create build.gradle. So I added this system property to the build Gradle, so you can specify the exact path to your bundles folder, to your Liferay home, where you unzip the JA2, just to make sure that when you run Gradle deploy, it deploys your jar to the right place. And as you can see, we have some dependencies here, like OSGI dependency, servlet, portal kernel, because we need it, and the Fragment API. All the versions we use in this example are already published. Thanks, Brian, for it. So you just create a build Gradle with these contents to be able to build your module. Next, we want to create an OSGI component which are going to supply our fragment collections, our fragment entries. And it's pretty simple, as you can see. You just have to extend base fragment collection contributor. So if it's not clear on the screen, just let me know, but I strongly recommend you to use the code share for this part, because of the light, it's not the best way just to copy it, you know. What, sorry? Ah, sorry, you have no laptop, sorry. Sorry for that. Yeah, sure. Is it better? Okay, cool. So we created bnd.bnd descriptor, we created a build file, And now we have to create a component. It doesn't matter in which package you are going to put it. It's pretty simple. You just specify the collection key. It's some internal stuff we're going to use to distinct this collection from the others. And you have to define a servlet context, like you have to inject a servlet context for this component. A servlet context with your bundle symbolic name, which means that they are going to use the resources from this bundle. And then you have it ready. You can actually create your fragments. Let me know if I'm going too fast and you want to stop and try it out. So if we have this component created, this base fragment collection contributor is a class from the Fragments API module. So having this dependency, it will be resolved in the compile time. So no worries. You can just, or actually I can put the imports, all the imports to the code share as well to make it easier. So this file should be players collection contributor Java. Actually, it's not necessary. You can call it whatever you want. So you define the fragment collection key and a servlet context. And then you have it ready. You can create the resources. Like on the same level we have for our Java classes, we create a resources folder. And with our package name, exactly the same package name where you put your Java class, you create your fragments, which are basically fragment JSON. You saw, Sandro showed you before, but I can open it and show you a little bit better. So I will copy it to the code share as well. So it's fragment.json. Here how it looks like. It has like a fragment entry key, a fragment name, and all these properties are also translatable using your language bundles, so no worries. It's type component. It has a thumbnail, but it's not required, so you can have a thumbnail to make it a little bit more beautiful. It has a path to your CSS file, which is like a common index CSS we have in the same folder, path to the HTML, and path to the JavaScript code of your fragment. And in the same folder, you have to put those files, like index CSS with a CSS of your fragment, index HTML with the HTML of your fragment you would like to display. I don't know if you want to copy and paste exactly the same code I use, or you want to create your own HTML. So I will pass it to the code share just in case. Which one? Yeah, sure. Everything I show, everything I'm showing right now is available in the latest Liferay version, and these examples are available in our Liferay Labs repository. So, and it will be there.
I'm just having trouble.
Yeah, sure, no worries. It will be there as long as you need it. So you just have to create a index HTML, index CSS, and index JS for your fragment. You can create thumbnail, or you can not create it. It looks much better with the thumbnails. So once we have this structure ready, with this simple contributor class and all the fragments in place you would like to deploy to your Liferay instance, you can just say, okay, I want to deploy it. So I don't remember where is it exactly. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to the folder with my module, which is players collection. Players collection. Sorry if you cannot see that. I don't know how to make it bigger. So you just have to go to your module folder and execute Gradle clean deploy. Actually, it can be only deploy if you are doing it for the first time. Gradle clean deploy. Whoa, I don't have Gradle here. Okay, I have forgotten to put my Gradle path. Do I have it here? Yes, great. So I go to my players collection folder and do Gradle. And as you saw, I put a system property Liferay home to make sure that my module comes directly to my Liferay instance whenever it is. So I say that Liferay home will be this long path to my Liferay home. You just have to put your own. I do clean deploy. So it says build successful, and if we check our portal log, it just starts the module with my players collection contributor. And now I can go to my portal, log in, create new content page, content page. And in the components folder, I have my colorful players collection available. So I have my blue player, green player, red player, etc. And this is the one way to create programmatically your fragment entries. Any questions on this part? I don't know if you could follow. Okay, no questions. So let's continue because we have a lot of stuff to cover. Anyway, if you have any questions, you can ask them right now or after the session. So the next way, the next thing I would like to show is the collection resources. Wow. My Git hates me. So I go to my resources branch. Okay. And what fragment resources are? We understand that you would like to use like different documents, images from the document library you have in your fragments. So that's why we have this resources tab on the fragment collections. And you can have there different resources like images, PDF files, docs, whatever you want to use. You can just upload them. Like I already have i6, okay. So I'm just uploading a new resource. And since it's here, I can easily use it in my fragments code like that. So I create a new fragment, or I have a component example here. Okay, we'll better create a new one. Audi8 component. And instead of copying and pasting the exact link to the document library resource, I can do this. I can say, okay, I'd like to have an image, using resources, A8, red, GPG, okay. And it renders my resource, my image from the collection resource. I'll have like here is it. We consider it quite powerful, but If you think that it's not worth it, just let us know, because any feedback of all the new stuff is very welcome, and we really need this feedback.
Instead of using document library, you use this for static resources.
Well, it's actually a part of a document library, so no worries. It's still in the document library, because the document library in Liferay, it's like the best way to store this stuff. It's just related, it's just connected to the particular components collection, or fragments collection, sorry.
Yeah, it's not to have in the document library some mixed stuff that is not important to have in the document library. I think to have in another place only for particular resource statics, I don't know. Because it seems a double repository, but maybe it's good to have the resources very close to fragment code. This is the reason, I think, I guess.
Well, yeah, that was the idea, to create the resources which are going to use only inside your fragments inside that
only
collection. Yeah. That was the basic idea. It takes like 10 seconds to initialize, sorry.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to use document library when document itself is important, and it may be used in different ways. Like usually in Liferay we can view document for document library, from asset publisher, from anything else. But if we have just a picture to display on a page, no reason to keep it in document library. It's actually what we sometimes have an issue. We have written site with many pictures, and now we go into document library and see ton of these pictures. Even we don't need them in as a documents.
Okay, I got your point. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's okay, this idea.
Yeah, great. Okay, let's continue. And we discovered already that it's possible to use some FreeMarker code, some FreeMarker variables inside of the fragments code, and we did it intentionally. So it's just to make the fragments code more powerful for you developers. And now I'm going to show you how it can work. The first thing we're going to use is just a small taglibs. So the context for a FreeMarker rendering, it's exactly the same like for any other FreeMarker templates you have in your portal. So we have all the utils available for the DDM templates, etc. And I'm just going to show you how to use it. So here I have a fragment code. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to paste it to the code share as well. Okay. So here I want to show a couple of things. In this component, I want to show like a player name. I want to show a picture. And I also would like to show some dynamic information about this player. So, for example, I would like to show supported languages. And here we can use a FreeMarker as is, but I guess you paid attention already that it doesn't have a standard FreeMarker syntax. It's because of the limitation we have. So we had to use alternative FreeMarker syntax. It's exactly like the normal syntax, but with square brackets instead of lower than, greater than icons, characters. So you can just use language util to get available locales for your portal instance, list them and show them as beautiful as you can. So I'm not good at design stuff, so sorry for that. And another thing I want to show is that we can also use any taglib we have in Liferay to show like anything you want with your taglib. So in this case, we are going to use Liferay map taglib to show like random player location. We initialize random latitude and longitude and just show a map. Hope it's gonna work. let's try it. Fast. Sandro, question. 10 seconds initializing, sorry.
A question about those FreeMarker templates. If we define some template context contributor and define custom variables, will they available there or not?
Yeah, that's a part which is inside of that repository. I don't know if we have enough time to show it, but the idea is that, yeah, you can create a context contributor, and I'm going to show you a small example. So I have a player's context contributor prepared. I will pass it to the code share right now. So here is it. It's pretty simple. Yeah, it will be available, as I told you before. All the context objects available in Portal, they're going to be available in the Fragments rendering context as well. So here I had to use random just to generate random numbers in my template, but you can put here whatever you like and use whatever you like. But it follows the same restrictions as all our templates engine, so it has like restricted variables. Without enabling it explicitly, you cannot use service locator and some other limitations, but you can enable it still. Yeah, exactly. So I need a CSS for this fragment as well. CSS. I'm going to save it. Go to my page. Call it FreeMarker. And drag and drop my component. So here it renders, using FreeMarker, it renders our languages, and it renders like a random location of our player. I don't know where is it. Oh, it's in Russia, great. So here how it works with FreeMarker support, and yeah, we have the additional, as Sandro showed you before, we have an additional configuration object with the configuration of your fragment entry, so you can use that as well. Okay, let's go. If you have any questions about this part, about FreeMarker support, using of taglibs inside your fragment code, just let me know. I think that many people want to know how to actually map their own stuff, how to create info, display fields, contributors, etc. So we are going straight to this one. So as I told you before, in the Sandro was showing mapping procedure, it's possible to create your own display contributor and makes even your custom entities mappable. So that's what we are going to do. We will have to create a new module called player display contributor, and I will pass all the build files for this module to the code share as well. So you have to create a bnd.bnd again. It's pretty simple as before. It's like bundle name, symbolic name, version. We need a build Gradle file. It's a little bit longer than the previous one because we need some additional dependencies. We need an asset display page API, we need info API, and that's what I'm going to explain later. Kernel and taglib, some others, so please just copy and paste it from the code share. I would like to also to create a player entity. It's just a pojo with some fields. I called it player. So you can create your own if you don't like this player stuff. So it's pretty simple. It contains like a couple of fields: ID, name, description, URL, and group ID. So everything will be in CodeShare, and let me know if I'm going too fast, because I really would like to show it to you. In the display contributor package, the main thing we want to create is our player info display contributor. This is like the core of the mapping. It's a little bit big, and I'm going to explain you why. Okay. Here we have our player info display contributor, and it implements info display contributor interface. And like the main methods we would like to implement here to override here is get class name. It basically says that we are implementing info display contributor class, info display contributor interface for the player class. We have get info display fields method, which basically returns you a set of fields you would like to make available for your users. In this case, I want to make mappable and available only name field, so I create a new field called name with a label name and of type text. But if you want to map an image, you can just do exactly the same. You create a field image with label image and type image. 10 seconds.
What? So if I see locale as a parameter, so if I like to return localized names of field labels or names, I should check locale and return not name but translation.
Yeah, you can do it like that. You can say, okay, I would like to use language util .get your language key and your resource bundle and the language key. Okay, and you
locale, and locale, I think.
Yeah, you get this resource bundle using our resource bundle util. We have a resource bundle util which returns you the resource bundle for a particular locale, for a particular module. So yeah, it is localizable, and you can return a different set of fields for different locales. And you can even, like, if you don't want to show for the, I don't know, you want to show for English-speaking people, you would like to show name and image, and for Russian-speaking, you want to show name, image, and the URL. You can return a different set of fields based on the locale. It's not a problem. Yeah, exactly. So you. Yeah, exactly. You can manipulate it as you would like. Okay, and the second, like the third method you are really interested in is get info display field values. So it returns you a map of string and object, which is basically the values or the mapped fields you want to have for a particular entity. So it accepts an entity and the locale, and you can say, okay, that for this locale and this entity, please give me this name for, like, we have a name field here, and we have to provide a value for a particular entity. So this is what it does. Okay. It has like a couple of internal methods we use. I don't want to stop on them because we are almost out of time. One more really important thing I want to show you is the display page friendly URL resolver and how to make these entities actually available using a friendly URLs. So you can extend base as display page friendly URL resolver. I will pass it to the co-chair. And it says that we want to use a URL separator player to render our entities using friendly URLs. And then we actually deploy this module. It makes available friendly URLs for our entities. So I have, for example, I have this friendly URL separator player, and I say, okay, I want to show player 1. And it shows me, it opens me the asset display page template mapped to my particular entity. So it's not even the asset or a web content, it's my custom entity, player. I can include whatever I want to include there and just render like a Pojo using my display page template. And I think that it's pretty cool and can be useful for many of your projects. Hope it will be useful, and if it's not, just let us know. Thank you, guys. Can you pass? Could you please use a microphone?
Can you also use this for regular web content?
Yeah, sure, definitely. In Portal, out of the box, we provide a journal, article, info display contributor. But if you want to show a different set of fields for journal articles, for the web contents, you can...
No, I especially mean the friendly URL resolver, because I saw the regular friendly URL uses W, but can you add another one specifically for specific
Sure, it's an OSGI component, so you can just create your own component for the journal article and say, okay, for the web content, I don't want to use W, I want to use my pretty cool web content, and that's it. You just override and implement your own asset display page friendly URL resolver. As you can see, it's like 9 lines of code. And you just say, okay, I don't want it to be player, I want it to be cool player, deploy your module, and that's it.
But how does it target specific entities then?
Sorry?
How does this friendly URL resolver map to player entities?
Yeah, okay, so as you can see in my address string, in my address bar, I have a friendly URL for a particular player. This is the player I created here. So in the activate method, in the normal situation, you are not going to do it like that, but it's just to make it faster for the demo. So I have a storage like a hash map with 2 players, player 1 and player 2, and I store them by ID, and I say, okay, that the URL for the first player will be player 1. So I can say that the URL will be here Lionel Messi, okay? And I will fill this object with my Leo Messi properties, and then someone calls like my Liferay portal /web /guest /player /Lionel Messi.
Yeah, that's the part I understand, but I want to know how the first mapping the first part of the URL works. So /player/.
Oh, okay.
How do you know that player is mapped to the player entity?
I got you. I think you saw that in Liferay we have a friendly URL servlet in place. If you don't, you can just check it out in the Liferay portal code. So where the magic happens, it analyzes all available friendly URL resolvers, and if it matches with your URL, it tries to match the part after the resolver, after the separator part. Like if it finds this thing in your query string, it tries to resolve it with the entity ID you passed, with the friendly URL you passed. I don't know if it answers your question. No?
Okay, never mind.
If you want, after the session, I can show you exactly how friendly URL servlet works.
Actually, I know his question because I have the same question. So let's say I deploy 3 of these: cool player,
okay,
and then Coca-Cola player, and beer player.
Perfect.
Okay? So I have 3 of those, and then each of them has player 1, and player 1. How does it know which one to pick up? Like, how does it...
Yeah, player 1 is unique. It's a friendly URL of the particular entity.
This means that that will mean that there is a pool of valid URLs, so you can access this particular entity player 1 via /coolplayer, but also via /player and via /w, because they are all valid, right?
The part of code I have just selected answers your question. So it's a part of info display contributor.
Okay, there's a one
one
mapping there.
Sorry,
okay,
I have forgotten.
That totally answers my question.
I have forgotten. Sorry for that. I have forgotten to mention this method. So we have get info URL separator method here, and you just have to specify that this particular info display contributor serves this particular URL separator, and that's it. Sorry. Do we have more time, right? Okay, cool. Let's continue. Okay, what I want to show next. I want to show some basics of the info framework. I don't know if you saw it already in the Liferay documentation, but on liferay.dev there are some articles about info framework, and actually this info display contributor is a part of the info framework. And the reason we started to develop info framework was that but they have already the asset framework, and it allows you to render some things that are assets. Like we used to have all our entities as assets, like the content article is an asset, document and media file is an asset, etc. And we decided that it will be cool actually to empower you to make it possible to use any other custom entity which is not asset actually, to be able to define like something like the asset renderer, but not only for asset but for any type of entities. So this is what we are going to see right now. Okay. I'm going to pass some more code. So here we want to create a contributor with the equipment for the players, and we are going to render this equipment using our info item renderer. So we have to create a new module called player equipment. It's pretty simple again. It has additional instruction called additional directive export package. It's because we want to use some entities from these packages in the other modules, and I will show you after that what exactly. So we create a BND for the player equipment. We create our build Gradle again. Build Gradle. With info API as a dependency and portal kernel and taglib and some other stuff we need. Let me know if you want it to be like bigger. I think I can make it bigger. We also need some equipment entities. So in the entity package, I have some. So I have interface equipment, which is pretty simple. Like it defines the type of equipment, name, and some properties. And I have the concrete implementation of this equipment interface, which will be a ball. It will be a ball class which implements equipment and has some type ball, a name, etc. With some properties, of course. And now what I want to create is to create the item renderer to be able to render my objects in the way I want it to be rendered. So for this, I want to implement the info item renderer interface. And I implement it like that. So it's pretty simple. You create a new implementation of info item renderer, which implements equipment, any type of equipment. It has a key, it has a render method, and in this case, we're just going to render a JSP, but as you understand, you can render it like in any way you like. We set some attributes I'm going to use in my JSP, and I'm setting a servlet context by reference to be able to include my JSP. Okay. I think that we are running out of time, so I'm just going to show you the example, but if you want to show how it's implemented, all the code is in the repository, so feel free to ping me after. So I'm going to show you now how it works. Okay, cool. We have we have four more backend parts. So okay, I'm going to create new component. Equipment. And I need some fragment code. I prepared for it. Okay. So as you can see, now we have not only a map. Oh, I'm missing something. Okay, I'm missing the equipment part. I'm going to deploy the contributor. Here we use FreeMarker code once again. So we have some equipment. We will have some equipment when I deploy a module. We will have some equipment available, and we just list this equipment using FreeMarker release directive, and we use equipment render util to render our equipment item the way we like. So I just have to add CSS. Okay, I have to deploy my context contributor as well. Player context contributor, Radle. I'm deploying my contributor, and in the contributor, I just inject some equipment into the FreeMarker context to make it available. Okay, I add my CSS. And here I have two types of equipment injected into my context. It's a ball, it's a World Cup 2018 ball, and the uniform. They're pretty simple, but you can like render it in the way you like. I'm not a designer, so I did my best. And on the page, it will be exactly the same. So you just edit the page, and we drag and drop this new component with the equipment. So we have a map again, and we have our equipment listed here. Do we have? No. No. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry for not showing you everything. Actually, we have, as I told you before, we have four more interesting parts to show. Please check out the repository because it contains all the code, and if you need any explanation, any help on implementing it, just find us, find me or Sandro in the venue, and we are going to answer your questions. Yeah, sure. I will. So in a code share now you can see the link to the repository. And actually the README for this repository in the master branch contains all our links or links to the branches, particular branches, etc. So thank you very much.